featuring the animated sights and sounds of Disney's most iconic films, from The Lion King to Frozen to Encanto and more. Step into the magic of Disney's greatest characters. Immersive Disney animation is now open at Lighthouse Art Space Las Vegas at the Shops at Crystals. Tickets at DisneyImmersive.com. Brought to you by the producers of Immersive Van Gogh.
KSHP North Las Vegas, 107.1 FM, 1400 AM, K29 6HP North Las Vegas, and online at kshp.com.
The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the program's participants and do not necessarily reflect those of station staff, management, and advertisers.
It's time for the most interactive radio program in Las Vegas today. It's time for Pushing the Limits with Brian Shapiro. Brian will talk sports, politics, entertainment, and anything that matters to you. Feel free to call Brian at 702-221-7283.
You want answers? I want the truth!
Now, Pushing the Limits, here's Brian Shapiro.
What's up, everybody? Happy Thursday. It is Pushing the Limits. Thank you so much for joining us, not just tuning in on the FM and the AM dial in Las Vegas, but of course on the YouTube page, TikTok, Twitter, the Facebook PTL fan page. We're broadcasting everywhere, Twitch, and we're so glad you make us a part of your day today. Thank you so much. We got a great show lined up for you. Got a lot to get to. We've already had some pretty interesting guests throughout the week. I think most people would attest to that, but we got some great guests lined up today as well. Here's a guy that I've been wanting to talk to for not months, years. He's a former congressman, a mayoral candidate, and a host of The Middle Unplugged on WABC. Controversial figure, some would say. Can't wait to talk to him coming up here in a few minutes. Anthony Weiner is going to be joining us on the show, so really looking forward to that. Coming up in hour number 2, Blake Gwynn going to be joining us in studio. And we got a lot to talk about, a lot to get to, certainly with Anthony Weiner as well. I want to start the show by talking about this because we had Henry Rugg's attorney on the show yesterday. And some people were saying, you know, Henry Rugg's got a slap on the wrist. If you don't know the story I'm talking about, it's the former Raider player who was going 155 miles an hour, drunk, killed an innocent woman and her dog. And he was sentenced yesterday 3 to 10 years. And David Schoenfeld, or I should say, did I get his last name wrong? Yes, I did.
Yes, you did.
Of course I did.
Chesnoff.
David Chesnoff. Schoenfeld is his other attorney. David Chesnoff. Thank you, Numchuck. David Chesnoff joined us on the show yesterday. There are some interesting people that are sharing their opinions on social media. One of them is a man that I would consider a double murderer, even though he was found not guilty in a court of law. Of course, I'm talking about Las Vegas's very own, the Juice, O.J. Simpson. And while this is a very serious topic, there is some levity when a guy that most likely decapitated his ex-wife is talking about a sentence that was too lenient on somebody else who killed somebody. Anyway, this is O.J. Simpson. Hello, Twitter world, yours truly. This is O.J. Simpson, in his own words, his commentary on the Henry Rugg sentencing. Have a listen to this.
Hey, ex-world, it's me, yours truly. Now, I know I went to college on a football scholarship, but somehow this math is not adding up to me. You're driving a car at roughly 160 miles an hour on a public street and end up killing a girl and her dog, and you get 3 to 10 years. You go to a hotel room that you're invited to retrieve your own personal stolen property I now have because it was ruled to be mine by the state of California. And you get 9 to 33 years. Same courthouse, same city, same state. I don't know. Somehow it just does not add up to me.
What a
I'm
psycho.
just saying.
What a psycho. Okay, I can't believe I'm going to say this on the air, but I'm actually going to agree with OJ. I do believe that the Palace Station situation, part of it was retribution. Part of it was retribution for what many believe happened decades ago. Now, that's wrong, right? That's not the way the justice system should work, but I think most reasonable people with an IQ over 20 would also say O.J. Should be in jail for the rest of his life for what took place decades ago. I think we all could probably agree that O.J. Simpson was responsible for those two innocent people that were murdered. So the last person I want to talk about justice is O.J. Simpson, and I don't feel bad for O.J. at all for what took place in that whole Palace Station situation, but I am going to agree with him, and I'll give you one example that a listener, I believe it was Travis, posted on my social media, and I want to share with you this because he makes a very good point, and I said this yesterday that Henry Ruggs should have gotten, in my opinion, if you kill somebody behind the wheel and you're drunk, it should be a mandatory minimum sentence of 10 years. That's always been my personal opinion. And I want to give you an example of what a listener put on my social media here, because there was a Las Vegas mother that got 7 DUIs, by the way. I mean, you want to talk about despicable. First of all, how do you get 6 DUIs and be allowed to drive a car? That's a question that I would ask anybody in society. Do we want that? Don't you think by the 6th time we should probably say you shouldn't be allowed to drive a car ever again for the rest of your life? But anyway, this mother, 7 DUIs on her record. Now, keep in mind, she never injured anybody. She certainly never killed anybody. But she has put her life and many other lives at risk with her drunk driving. There's no question about that. And I'm not defending any of her actions, and I'm glad she's going to jail. However, she never injured anybody. She certainly never killed anybody, thank God. But yet, she's serving 2 years in prison. At least 2 years, by the way. She got 2 to 6. So at a minimum, she'll be serving 2 years in prison. How is it that somebody could be going 150 miles an hour, drunk, you kill an innocent young woman and her dog, and you get 3 minimum? Something is wrong with our justice system when that happens. Now, listen, you can disagree with me on punishments, and I've been very clear on DUI and what I believe should happen. And I don't think this is ever going to happen, but it should happen. I've said time and time again, if you get a DUI, just one, and you don't hurt or injure somebody, it's not an accident, you just get 1 DUI, you should lose your license for a year. I'm not saying you should go to jail. Minimum, lose your license for 1 year. So you have 1 year to think about it and understand that driving a car is a privilege. Take the bus. Get rides from people for 1 year. So you have 1 year to suffer and think about it. Then you deserve to get your driver's license back as long as you stay out of trouble. You get a second chance. If you get pulled over a second time, keep in mind, I'm not even talking about getting into a car accident or injuring somebody or even worse, killing somebody. I'm talking about just getting pulled over for maybe a headlight or speeding or parking, whatever the case may be. If you get a DUI for the second time and it's proven that you were drunk, you should not be able to drive a car for the rest of your life. Yes, I said it. Because that is a decision that you make. The fact that, let me put it to you clear, if you kill somebody and you're under the influence, it should be a minimum prison term of 10 years. You can get out in 10 years. Henry Ruggs should have gotten at least 10 years. He's going to get out in 3 years or less, I guarantee it. And when you are a celebrity, or in this case a celebrity with money, and you could buy the best attorneys that money can buy, you get a slap on the wrist. And that's exactly what this is. It's a slap on the wrist. Because of Henry Ruggs' actions, and it was his decision to get into a car going 150 miles an hour. It was his decision to drive drunk. When you do that, you are playing Russian roulette with society. And a young woman, an innocent woman named Tina Tintor, lost. And she was doing absolutely nothing wrong. And my thoughts will always go out to her family because it's a pain that never goes away. And Henry Ruggs will probably be eligible for parole in a few years. That's wrong. That's not justice. I am not saying that Henry Ruggs deserves the electric chair, and I'm not saying Henry Ruggs deserves the rest of his life behind bars, even though he took a life. What I am saying is 3 years is a joke. And it is embarrassment to our justice system, as I call it sometimes, our injustice system. And O.J. Simpson, while I believe is a double murderer and has no credibility, does make a valid point. He didn't physically harm anybody. I'm talking about the Palace Station story. He didn't physically harm anybody. He did have some of his boys with guns, and you could call it somewhat of an armed robbery, even though he was recovering the memorabilia that was his. Nobody was killed. Nobody was physically harmed, and he did get 9 years. And again, I believe if it's not O.J. Simpson, there's probably no jail time there. But that's beside the point. He does make a valid point there. In regard, and you know, O.J.'s the last person who should be talking about justice, right? But Henry Ruggs got a slap on the wrist. He should not be allowed to be free after a couple years, especially when you look at the circumstances. Listen, if you go through a stop sign and you run over God forbid you run somebody over, you run over a kid or something, not because you were speeding or you were, texting, you just didn't see the stop sign and you were going the speed limit and you kill somebody. That's truly an accident. I don't think you deserve to go to jail for that. If you go through a stop sign and you hurt or kill somebody and you're driving the speed limit and you're not drunk, yeah, your driver's license should be suspended. Yes, you should be put on probation and all those things. But, there are certain circumstances that don't warrant going to jail. This is an abomination. And I appreciate David Chesnoff coming on the show yesterday, and I didn't have him on to debate him. I would have liked to, but I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to be disrespectful. I appreciated him coming on the show, and I wanted him to state his case and make his point, and he did do that. But this is an abomination, and it sets a horrible precedence moving forward, and it's sad, and it's pathetic. And our justice system and some of the rules when it comes to DUIs need to change, and they need to be stronger laws put on the books. All right, here's what we are going to do, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, former congressman and mayoral candidate and host of the Middle Unplugged on WABC, a household name, Anthony Weiner will be joining us next on the show. Plenty to get to with him. Been wanting to talk to him for a very, very long time. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. You are listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premium Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Buying or selling a home is a huge life event that requires guidance from an expert in the industry and community. My name is Blake Wynn. You may recognize my name as my grandfather was the best governor the state of Nevada has ever had. Growing up in Las Vegas, I've come to know this community intricately. Now, I am raising a family here as well. So I understand all the issues impacting our home and quality of life. As the top realtor for the #1 real estate team at Keller Williams, you can have confidence in my experience, knowledge, and track record. When it comes to buying, selling, or investing in real estate, choose a name you can trust and someone who understands the community you call home. Call Blake Wynn today and experience the difference of a trusted expert. 702-540-3311.
Hey everybody, it's Brian Shapiro from Pushing the Limits. I want to tell you guys about Sahara West Urgent Care and Wellness. They're conveniently located on the southwest corner of Sahara and Jones. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. At Sahara West Urgent Care, they'll take care of all your healthcare needs. They offer routine services such as physicals, STD testing, car accident treatment, and work injuries. You name it, they do it. They have on-site x-ray, EKG, ultrasound, and labs. They treat chronic conditions such as asthma, blood pressure, diabetes, and more. They also offer general wellness exams, treatments such as testosterone enhancement, and cancer screening. They're located on Sahara, 6125 West Sahara Avenue. Their number is 702-248-0554. And the best part, they accept most major insurances and affordable cash pay prices. Office visits starting at just $95. And I'm also a client, so please give them a call, 702-248-0554. All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on KSHP Radio. Thank you so much for joining us on a Thursday, a very busy news day. Well, I got to tell you, the guy we have with us on the line right now is somebody I've been wanting to talk to. Of course, you know him as a former out there in Manhattan. I spent a lot of time in New York myself growing up in Connecticut. I have family in New York. And he's also the host of The Middle Unplugged on a very good radio station and big station out there, WABC. I'm happy to have Anthony Weiner joining us right now. Anthony, good to see you, my friend. Thanks for coming on. How are you?
Thank you, Brian. It's my pleasure.
Appreciate you coming on. All right, I want to ask you this to start because there's a video that went viral. I think you know the video I'm talking about a few weeks ago. You're on this PBD podcast. I've never heard of this guy before, okay? But you're on this podcast, and he rolls a list of names of people that have died that have known the Clintons, which is a ridiculous conspiracy theory, trying to make a correlation between the Clintons having something to do with some of these deaths. What do you make of these conspiracy theorists? I understand why you got angry. I got angry just watching that. And just talk about the dangers of what some of these right-wing hosts are doing.
Well, part of the challenge is that, you and I do radio. Our audiences are fairly mainstream. My audience is probably more mainstream right than yours is mainstream left. But it's important to recognize that there is a whole subculture out in the world. And it's a lot of young people, to be honest, who are seeking narratives to explain everything in the world. And that usually means that they're susceptible to hearing crazy stories about just about anything out there. And I think it's particularly true when there is this, I guess you would call it an erosion of confidence in institutions, the institutions of politics, the institutions of communication like you and I are in, the institutions of banking, everything. And so if someone comes up with a story that seems at least plausible, people are willing to believe it. And I guess what I didn't quite realize that goes on. These guys that function entirely on the internet and who really don't care much, their advertisers don't care what kind of crazy things they say. Mm-hmm. But I have to confess that I was unprepared for someone to read a list and say, did the Clintons kill all these people? And there was one point in the interview where the guy says, how are you even alive? And all this other kind of crazy stuff. Yeah. I take it seriously because I am, as you might know, Brian, I'm also the subject of some of those. Right. What's on my laptop? What do I know? Et cetera. And but I think it's ultimately, to some degree, you and I are somewhat the counterbalance to that, I hope. Yeah,
I would hope so, Anthony. I think of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Alex Jones. And, I think of, and you tell me if you disagree with this. We all saw what happened with Mitch McConnell, right, a few weeks ago. Some sort of medical episode. We're not doctors, but I saw Joe Biden pick up the phone, not literally, but he picked up the phone. He calls Mitch McConnell to see how he's doing. Democrats across the country, even though they disagree with Mitch McConnell, they're wishing him well. And then when I see what happened to Fetterman or Paul Pelosi, Ted Cruz saying it was some sort of gay relationship and Paul Pelosi let this madman in his home. And then, when we talk about, Fetterman, for example, Ted Cruz and the Charlie Kirks of the world calling him a vegetable, making fun of his speech impediments. I just think that is a fundamental difference today between most Democrats and Republicans. So what do you say to that?
Well, there was a conversation about this, how come you don't hear these stories about George W. Bush? How come you don't hear them about whomever? It could be that this is particularly a function of people on the far right, maybe the extreme far right. But I will tell you this, I have, a fairly young crew at the radio station, the guys that run the board, the guys that do the sound design, all this kind of. And when you talk to them about their experiences with media, they're not listening to the radio. There's a lot of their friends that come to them and they say, how do we know someone landed on the moon? And, we have a particular acute experience with this in New York City because there are people that to this day deny that 9/11 happened and that we were attacked by foreign homicide bombers. And for family members, and this is what I responded to so viscerally in that interview, for family members of that is a dishonoring of these people's memory. I don't know if it's a left or right phenomenon. I will say that generally speaking, I think people on the left have more fidelity in the process of government, in the process of the institutions of our life than Republicans do. I just do think that. Some of what the Republican math is about undermining our sense of community, and nothing does that better than a good conspiracy theory.
I wanted to ask you this, Anthony. There have been times where Donald Trump has been on the campaign trail, and he's mentioned your name. He's disparaged you. He's disparaged your ex-wife. Here's a man who's had 25 women who have accused him of sexual assault or rape. As you know, he's also been found liable for sexual abuse. And he's the guy talking about people like you. You know, he's called you a pervert, among other things. I'm curious, what goes through your mind when you see Donald Trump bring up your name in the mud?
Well, now that I've got a radio show, it's gold. I mean, I'm not sure I mind it that much. Look, there is certain, my story is a very public one. I had a very public career. I flew pretty close to the sun and I got burned, and I was dealing with some mental health things during that time that I'm in recovery now. But I get it to some degree. I'm not terribly uncomfortable being a boogeyman. What really troubles me is when he makes victims out of people that are not celebrities. He can curse me out all he wants, but when he singles out people that are just election workers in some obscure place in Nevada or Georgia, just doing their jobs, I have a little respect for that. That's bullying, plain and simple. But as far as Donald Trump, hey, the guy donated to my campaigns. He was a big fan when he was wondering who was going to be the next leaders of the city and the country. But I don't, as a personal matter, to me, now it's fodder. I'm on a very conservative radio station. And as a matter of fact, if you ever listen to my show, my radio show on Saturday, my radio show, the bumper I use is him and Joe Biden saying that they're not big fans of mine. So that kind of credentials me.
What is that like for you, though? Because I've dealt with that. I'm just curious. My whole radio career being on, and not this station, but other stations that are conservative stations that have Mark Levin, Sean Hannity, Laura Ingraham. And here I'm the only guy that's calling out Donald Trump and calling out people on the right. What is that like for you to be at a station, WABC, big station in New York, where you're right, it's a conservative station? What is that like for you?
Well, it's a choice, right? I mean, when I was in Congress, I was one. I had no problem going on Fox News and other places. For one thing, it animated my fans who like to see the battle of it. But to some degree, I always had the philosophy that we have too much one-hand clapping in American political conversation right now. And I honor what you do because you have an audience that is very diverse, like I do. Mm-hmm. It is a challenge because when you have jokers to the left of you, jokers to the right, and here I am. The metaphor I use is these people come to a country and western station and hear hip hop for an hour. It's challenging, but it also is a challenge worth rising to, because unless you think we should be in a country where 45% of the country stares at Fox News, 45% stares at MSNBC, and 10% throw up their hands and then just wait to vote on the presidency every 4 years. Yeah. Unless you think that's a good thing, then I think what you're doing and what I'm aspiring to do is probably the right path.
Agree, and I think we need more of it. I have to ask you this. Even though I'm an independent, I lean to the left on a lot of social issues. I'm one that I think Joe Biden's a decent man. I think he's done a decent job as president, but I want to see somebody else in there. I'm not so sure I want to see him run again. I want to get your thoughts on that. If you had to pick, would you want to see Joe Biden run again in 2024, or would you rather see somebody else?
What difference does it make what I want? That's what we're going to get. I mean, this conversation, I call this the backup quarterback conversation we always have. We always think that the guy on the sidelines is better. If we just put him in, everything will be better. Maybe that's just coming from the perspective of a Jets fan who hasn't had a starting quarterback for a while. But yeah, let's now what we have to do is buy an offensive line and we'll be fine. Right. Look, I mean, I agree. I think that many on the left are whistling past the graveyard about the physical condition that Joe Biden. I think the gaffes, I think the way he shuffles to the air, up the steps. I think him making these mistakes. I made light of George W. Bush when he did these gaffes because I thought it speaks to just you have it together. Right. All that being said, he's the candidate. He's going to be running on a very good record. Mm-hmm. The economy is showing signs of doing that thing that it does where it slowly turns around. The perceptions catch up with the reality. The answer is no, but the answer is no. I probably would not want him if I could just make an ideal candidate. But he has one credential that no one else has, and that is he has shown that he has beaten Donald Trump. And if my imperative is to make sure that he does it again, in a way, I kind of don't mind that. I don't mind a rematch of a bout that wasn't that close last time.
I tend to agree with you on that. Anthony, I want to ask you this. Help shed some light for me on this, because I have no idea why Republicans seem to be so obsessed with drag queens reading books to kids and transgenders. When Ron DeSantis is asked about, hey, if you become president, Trey Gowdy asked him, if you become president, how are you going to end the war in the Ukraine? And his first thing out of his mouth, he's talking about gender ideology. What is wrong with these people, and why are they so obsessed with transgenders? I just don't understand it.
Well, you're much more online than I am. I have a theory about this, and we did an episode on this whole woke thing about. I'm not convinced it's the killer issue that Ron DeSantis thinks it is, and I think part of his challenge is that he bought into the idea that this was a narrative that gets him to win the Republican nomination. I don't see it. It's not something that when people call the radio station, they talk that much about. Maybe it's, again, because maybe Republicans and conservatives we have a 50,000 watt Clear Channel station here, but it's pretty conservative. I don't believe that it is the boogeyman that they like. Now, I will confess that Republicans do campaign a great deal more on fear of other than Democrats generally do. Again, Democrats campaign for office, and you can always tell the difference. They have a long list of stuff they want to do. Republicans campaign for office on the stuff that they want to stop from happening, right? And so if you take that narrative to the extent, to the nth degree, it really is, I don't want anyone having power but us. And the us, unfortunately, is anyone that looks like you and I do, Brian. Mm-hmm. I mean, even though Weiner and Shapiro, I'm not sure they had us in mind either. But I think it's a lost issue for them. And you never, ever see in national polls of the most important issues that people care about, you never see those issues rising above even the tens, because I don't think people care that much about them.
Is it frustrating to you that, listen, you're a guy, you made your mistakes, you've owned up to them, you've paid the price for them, yet the front runner and the face of the Republican Party is a guy, in my estimation, that has done far worse than anything you've ever done. And yet there are Republicans throughout the country that still support him, the MAGA cult. And I call it a cult. That's what it is. Is that frustrating to you that you see the front runner of the Republican Party and all the indictments that have come down and all the alleged crimes that he has committed? I mean, what do you make of that?
I don't look at it that way. We talk in my program of recovery about not comparing and despairing. Like, yes, there are a lot of people that, no one ever went to prison for the things that I went to prison for, but that I accept responsibility. I believe in the system. I believe that even though I was prosecuted in the Trump administration, I don't blame Donald Trump for prosecuting me and things like that. But all of that being said, I think it is important to note that they might be changing, right? I mean, we say this a lot. You and I have probably said it to our friends or on the air dozens of times. Okay, this might change it. You do see gradually that the base of people that say we support Donald Trump and we just don't care is getting smaller. There's still people that support Donald Trump and who would vote for him over Joe Biden, but you can see there's starting to be an erosion. You can see that some Republicans on the campaign trail are starting to see, all right, maybe there's an electoral space where you criticize his behavior and still do much of the Republican orthodoxy. But I don't see it through the lens of, boy, this is so unfair. Donald Trump has been a fixture in New York City life for the longest time. He's been a failed businessman for the longest time. He's got a failed airline, a failed casinos, failed real estate, and everything else. We here kind of know him as a phony in New York. But I think that is that keep me up at night? No, what keeps me up at night is, do we keep moving forward and making progress now that we have a Democratic president and thank goodness a Democratic Senate. And so far, all things considered, this has been a period of some progress in American life.
No question about that. If you're just joining us, former Congressman Anthony Weiner. Anthony, if you were in a room alone in private with Donald Trump, I'm just curious, what, if anything, would you want to say to him?
I would say you can't have a refund for the contribution you gave me. I don't really know. Look, I see him as a fairly sophisticated, although overrated performance artist. I think he and I are in a completely different business. I do believe in I had a job that was in the United States Constitution also, and I think I did it with honor, and he did it with dishonor. But I haven't really thought of that. I mean, I would tell him to keep my ex-wife's name out of his mouth or something like that. But I don't know. And I don't anticipate that happening anytime soon.
Yeah. Do you see a Democrat in office now that reminds you of yourself? I mean, I remember back in the days when you were a congressman, you were one of the most passionate people around. You stood up to Republicans, and a lot of people championed you for that back then. Do you see somebody in office now that reminds you of yourself?
Well, that's a tough question, because I think that while I had done a pretty good job carving out a space, remember, for a lot of your listeners, they're gonna have to go Google who I even was, right? It's a good deal of time has passed. And I remember I guess it was 2010, when we were debating the healthcare for 9/11 first responders.
Right.
And it was late in the evening. The Republicans were doing something particularly dishonorable and had screwed around with an agreement we had, and I lost my temper. And I remember that it became one of these first viral moments of a member of Congress yelling on the floor. Not that it hadn't happened before, just this is, the internet era had begun. And I think that while it was nice to be affirmed for losing your temper, I think that it did start an era where now people in Congress go entirely to try to achieve viral moments, to try to capture what I was doing. I think authentically, I was tired, I was cranky, I apologize. Although I never broke regular order in that whole yelling speech. I think that now when I watch Congress, and I'm not someone, Brian, who sits at 2:00 in the morning watching C-SPAN 3, throwing shoes at the TV. I'm much more likely to stay up late watching, hockey highlights. But I will tell you that it does seem to be an almost overtly performative nature to the way so many people do the job now. There is no path for the way it used to be back in the day when Harry Reid would be an inside guy. He wasn't great on TV, but he was a good inside guy at getting stuff done. It's really hard to make an argument for someone to go to Washington nowadays to be that kind of legislator. So do I see people like myself? It's hard to tell. I don't, I stay in touch with some of my older friends there who have now been there a while. But they all report back to me that it ain't the place it used to be. It's not a really great place to go if you want to get stuff done. Now, if you want to get more followers, it probably is a good place for that.
What do you make of a guy like Jim? I mean, I could name so many names right now, but a guy like Jim Jordan, who's never passed anything in his life, and yet all he cares about is going after Democrats and Hunter Biden and his laptop and the Biden crime family. What do you make of that? A guy like Jim Jordan that remains in office that has never really passed a bill in his life, and all he wants to do is, defy his own subpoena and go after Democrats.
Look, I say keep at it, because I think if there's one thing that people kind of agree with across the political aisle is they don't like just partisanship for partisanship's benefit. Now, they don't want you always to compromise, but these show trials, these guys that they bring up again, and I think, look, I took and am taking the Hunter Biden case very seriously on my radio show. It's one of the ways I credential myself with my conservative audience by saying, listen, there's something here. And so I've done lots of programs on it. Even the podcast that dropped yesterday of my midweek podcast, I went back and I read, I did a performance of some of the transcript from this guy, Devin Archer. I think there's something there. However, I think you asked how I feel about it. When I watch the Republicans do this, I think I have a good enough feel for what regular voters out there care about to know, just like with the woke question you asked earlier, to know that they're doing harm to their own cause. And that since 2016, every national referendum-y kind of election we've had, Democrats have won. And it's a combination of because of Donald Trump and because of the out-of-touch Republicans and because of the Supreme Court turning our lives upside down. And Jordan's one of that second. The out-of-touch Republicans, the more they want to do this kind of stuff, I don't think it's really getting them anywhere but feeding their base red meat.
Have you ever seen a speaker with less of a backbone than Kevin McCarthy?
Yeah, I knew Kevin a little bit. I think there was a reason the last time when you really could have gotten look, it's hard to do that job, to be speaker. People don't seem to realize that Nancy Pelosi, when she was governing with a majority almost this small for a while, and it's not like the speaker can take away your budget or take away your office or penalize you in any way. I mean, in an extreme case, she can go to the whole caucus and say, let's take away his committee assignments. There's not a lot of discipline, but Nancy had the ability, and Chuck Schumer has this to us, to say, look, there has to be a certain amount of we in this organization, that, we come from diverse places. We have the different agendas, but there has to be this sense of commonality of outcomes that we're looking to get to. The Republicans don't have that. as I said earlier, it's not like there's something that they really want to get done. A lot of them come to Washington with the aspiration of just burning the place to the ground. If that's your framework, it's very hard to lead people like that. They're nihilists. So now, is Kevin McCarthy as good at anyone else of kind of getting? He's pulled some tricks out of his hat that I was surprised he was able to get done up to now. But I'm not sure. I think if Jesus Christ came back and said, I'm gonna run this caucus, do you think still guys like Matt Gaetz would not go out and do his stunts and like be no on stuff? The Republicans are not good at governing. That's the bottom line. And when you have a very small margin, it just is in stark relief that that's the case.
I tend to agree with you. All right. So, Anthony, speaking of religion, you're a man who's Jewish, as am I. I've been very outspoken as far as members of the squad are concerned, particularly the last few months. We know Ilhan Omar's made some stupid statements. I know she's apologized for those statements. I don't know what's in her heart. But when you say that Israel is a racist state, that's just an idiotic statement. So I want to get your thoughts on that, members of the squad. What are your thoughts on these, what I consider borderline anti-Semitic statements?
Yeah, so I devoted a lot of time to this when I was in Congress, and because we would look at overwhelming majorities in the House and Senate in both parties in support of Israel, and that's the way it should be. But what we would do every so often is we'd look up at the board of some of these votes, and we'd see that there are, a handful, 10, 15, maybe more, who were voting against us. And we kind of made an effort to look. In some cases, it was because they just didn't understand stuff. They come from districts where you couldn't raise a minion. You come from places that don't understand these issues. And sometimes just sitting down and talking to them. And what it often comes down to is wherever you start, history can tell you a different story. And the David and Goliath story has been turned upside down in that part of the world. Yep. Israel is one country who's at war with 20 of her neighbors. There are people in Congress, and maybe Omar is one of them, that the politics of their district means that they're pro-Palestinian to some degree. I mean, John Dingell of Michigan for years and years was in this case in Michigan. They come from Kalamazoo, Michigan, for example. So for those people, they're doing politics, but there are people, and I don't think it's a lot, there are people who are just anti-Semitic. And she's not someone I know. I don't think bunching the squad together. I think there are we have a problem on our left, I would argue, with people, with progressives not understanding the story of Israel and allowing themselves to at least, it's very easy to put on a bandana around your face, pick up a stone and throw it at an IDF officer and say, okay, look at this image we've created of David and Goliath. That's completely backwards. The only reason that person is throwing that stone is because they've got bombs somewhere else and guns somewhere else, but this is what they want to have broadcast over Twitter. All that being said is I think we have a way of allowing the tail to wag the dog. Ilhan Omar does not represent anything close to the majority. She represents a coalition of 5, 6, 7 people. And I think that one thing we might not want to do is elevate her too much.
Agree. It's interesting, Anthony, because I wanted to ask you a few questions about your political future, if you have one. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine yesterday. I said, hey, Anthony Weiner's coming on the show tomorrow. And we were having a discussion about you. And we're saying to ourselves, if Anthony didn't make some of the mistakes that he made, where would he be at today? And I thought to myself, I think he'd be running for president of the United States. So number one, do you think like that ever, even though it's probably not healthy to think like that? And my second question to you is, with everything you've been through in your life and where you're at right now, and we're glad you're doing well, do you ever see yourself running for office ever again?
Well, let me just say I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be right now. And that is talking to you and trying to figure out a career in radio. I've been on about 1.5 years, and we're doing pretty well by the way these things get measured. You would know better than I. Mm-hmm. It is true. I, for 20 some odd years, had a life in political circles that was successful. And I didn't lose elections until I started losing my mind, to be honest with you. Now, here's the lens I look at it through. There are lots of ways that people can be of service. There's lots of ways that people can improve their communities. Sometimes what you're doing is doing it. Even callers to your station that have ideas and they say, here's what I think we should do. In some small way, they're doing it. But for me, I had a nice run. I had a really nice run, and I had a chance. I came close running for mayor. I was a member of the United States. I'm a middle class guy. My mom was a school teacher. I had no business. We didn't grow up in the Weiner household like the Kennedys deciding who was going to be ambassadors, who's going to be senators. We were like middle class people, and I managed to find a career and a job in the United States House of Representatives. I think I've disqualified myself by my actions. However, people say it to me all the time. And sometimes what people say is like, oh, because of you, we got this other jackass. Well, I'm not sure that's a compliment. I think it just means in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king.
Right. A couple more quick questions for you, Anthony, and we really do appreciate your time. I remember watching the famous documentary they did on you when you were running for mayor. I mean, that was excruciating. And that had to be excruciating for you to have cameras in your face, in your place, in your home, when all that stuff was going on. And I'm not sure it gets any more real than that. We see reality television, and I tell people it's not really reality because you have a camera in front of you, but that was all going through in real time. And I would imagine if you knew that stuff was going to happen at that time, maybe you wouldn't have had a documentary made about you. I don't know. But I thought that documentary was, number one, fascinating and excruciating to watch because you saw the pain that you guys were going through at that time.
Well, I've never seen it, but
Really?
Yeah, never seen it. Partially, so I'd have to answer questions like this. But look, here's the thing. I lived it. It was very painful. It was very difficult. It caused a great deal of pain to my wife. It caused a great deal. There are a lot of people who believed in me a great deal. I was leading in all the polls and everything else. All that being said, you had a conversation earlier in the program about people who drive while drunk. I believe that addiction leads people to different kinds of bottoms. And I had a very low bottom. It cost me my career. It cost me my family. It cost me time in prison. And so to some degree, again, like I said, I didn't see the movie, but to some degree, it's a cautionary tale that we don't know what's going on in people's heads. We don't know what's going on in people's lives. I always tell people, to have compassion for strangers that are going through crazy things online, because believe me, I was in that barrel. But I don't have any plans to go watch it. I already lived it.
Right.
But I would tell you, if you ever do run for office, Brian, you're going to have people with cameras all over the place, and you're always going to want to have one of your own there too. And so this arrangement that I made with this guy, and he violated the arrangement, but the guy was that you can come take video, but if we need it on the campaign at any point, we get copy of it. And as it turned out, there was an instance where I got into a shouting match with someone at a shop who said something a
rabbi,
racist.
right? Yeah, I remember that.
Someone racist said something racist and disgusting about my wife, and I got back in his grill. And the video that went viral was me yelling at this Jewish guy at a bakery, right, which was not a great look. But we were able to take out the video and say, look what this jackass said to me. I don't know if it made it any better, to be honest.
Oh, he was a jerk. I remember exactly what you're talking about. He was an absolute jerk in the things he said to you. Listen, it's one thing to disagree with somebody and not want to vote for somebody, but I think it's another thing to badger somebody in public like he did to you. And he was 100% wrong. One of the things that you did when you were a politician, and we touched on this a little bit, which I appreciated about you, was that you were willing to go on Fox News. You were willing to talk to those on the other side and it was always going to be a combative interview. I felt like one of the reasons why Hillary Clinton lost in 2016, there's probably a number of reasons, but I thought one of the reasons was, I said, I wish Hillary would go on Fox News. I wish she would go on some of these other stations. You were never afraid to do that. I think Republicans and Democrats both should be doing that, right? I think Republicans should be going on CNN or MSNBC. I think Democrats should be going on Fox News. Do you agree with that, or do you think it's bad for a politician to do that?
It depends on whether you think the whole process is on the level. If you think that, look, if you get out information that is contrary to what this interviewer thinks, that's helpful because that person's audience is going to get a chance to see it. If you think that there are persuadable people in the world, then I think you try to persuade them, even if it's one person in 10 listening to you. There is an element of Christians and lions on these interviews, though. Like, I would not recommend just about any politician going on who doesn't have kind of the. I didn't mind it because some degree you cut your teeth in New York politics. You're used to people yelling at you at random on the street anyway. But I am concerned a little bit that these interviews are, maybe it's not the right way because they're just performance at some point. But all that being said, I think if you step back and say, should we look for places where the Venn diagram of people who support Trump, who support Biden, If there's a Venn diagram of people in the middle who, sure, they carry their partisanship with them to the conversation, but they're open to other ideas and they're open to the idea of compromise, and they don't think that the other guy is venal. I don't think the conservatives that call into my show are bad people. With the possible exception of being Republicans, but these are people with whom I disagree, and some of the people that I was closest to in Washington are Republicans.
Right. Understood. What do you make of people like Chris Christie who help, at least in my estimation, enabling Donald Trump? But now all they seem to do is, speak the truth on Donald Trump, which I think is great. I guess better late than ever. But what do you make of these people that now they've waited this long, like the Chris Christies of the world, to speak truth about Donald Trump? Are they phony? What do you make of a guy like a Chris Christie?
Well, I mean, I don't know about you, Brian, but I put the Chris Christies and the RFK Juniors in kind of the same category of trying to be just troublemakers for their own party. I think that RFK is doing it to sell books, plain and simple. And Chris Christie, I'm a little less. I think Chris Christie is just scratching an itch he's been dying to for some time. There's a certain authenticity in his anger and whatever it is. All that being said, I'm not really sure that either one matters, and neither one is getting much support. Yes. I mean, the idea that someone wakes up and notices that Donald Trump is a problem at this late stage in the game, it does beg for an explanation. Like, how did you just come to this at this moment? But does Chris Christie and RFK, these people amount to anything in American political life? And what are they going to ultimately be? Great. RFK is getting like 4% among Democrats, and Chris Christie is getting 2% among Republicans. It's interesting for guys like you and me who like people that say colorful things, but I think American people are largely ignoring them.
When you're in New York City walking down the street, and I would imagine people on a regular basis recognize you, I'm just curious, what's the most, I guess, the most popular thing that people will say about you when they see you? Are they cordial? What do they say to you? I'm just curious these days, as opposed to maybe years back.
I think it's a much better documentary for someone to make, because it's interesting. Look, I'm a little bit of a Rorschach test for people. A lot of people come up to me and they say, "I'm so sorry, what happened to you?" And I try to explain to them, nothing happened to me. I'm doing fine. I've got so many blessings. I've got an 11-and-a-half-year-old coming back from camp tomorrow. I mean, I'm healthy, thank God. Then there are people who want to talk to me about something going on in the city or in their lives because they still see me through the lens of being an elected official, someone who's out there trying to solve problems, et cetera, et cetera. They talk to me about the high price of eggs as if I'm still going to go vote on lowering the price of eggs. It is an axiom of politics that people are mean to you from afar, but generally fairly kind to you in person. I think generally speaking, Americans are nice. I think people are nice and decent people. And that this weird thing that gets created, the anonymity that goes with, online life, has made us think that everyone hates everyone else. I think for the most part, people are pretty cool. Now, people do come up to me and they do give me an earful about something or other. But even then, it ends with a handshake or it ends with a wave or something like that.
I'm happy to hear.
I think, Brian, you're a public guy too. I think generally speaking, people they're not mean to it. Like, even if you go to a ball game and someone's yelling at the umpire, if the umpire comes and leans against the ball, leans against the front row, in between innings, you'll see the guy is going to be quiet. He's going to just basically say hi, whatever it is.
Right.
I think generally speaking, people are pretty kind, and I know they've been kind to me. I have so many blessings, and if someone wants to yell at me because Bill de Blasio became mayor because of my scandal, I think they're entitled to that.
I would agree, but I'm happy to hear that. Okay, last question for you, Anthony. If you were a congressman today, the one bill that you would want to pass, the one thing in Washington right now, I know there's plenty of things you'd want to change, but what is the one thing that would be on the top of your list that you would push for?
Well, I was proud to be part of the group that helped write the Obamacare law, and that was not my starting point. I did not believe that market-based healthcare is a thing to do. I think that we have amazingly successful programs in the VA and in Medicare for single-payer healthcare systems that really work well and that people like. And so I have always been of the belief that guys like you and me guys of our age, and I know what your age is. I'm only
43.
31. I'm only 31. So that we should not have to rely upon our employers to tell us what health care that we get, that there should be a base level of health care that people get, that we shouldn't give money to insurance companies to provide it to us. We should give money to doctors and nurses and x-ray technicians to provide it for us. Right. So I think that we're ready now that we're seeing an expansion of the role of the federal government in healthcare under Obamacare. I think now we're ready for the next step, which is to say, let's expand Medicare gradually, a couple of years every year. And I think that would save us an enormous amount of money, and also return the idea that we the government, we do some things well. And Medicare was an example of that.
Agree. And isn't it interesting, Anthony, all the Republicans out there that complain about Obamacare, yet they don't have a replacement plan. It's like, okay, they want to complain about something, but they don't have a solution.
More importantly, and I know we're running out of time, more importantly, they themselves, members of Congress, at the beginning of every year, they get a big booklet. What healthcare do you want to go into? And just like Obamacare was, they wanted it for themselves, but didn't want it for everyone else. And a lot of them are getting Medicare. And so all I would say is if you know anyone who's 65, ask them if they think Medicare is a good program. And if know anyone who's 60, ask them whether they'd like to get it early. They both say yes.
Am I wrong, Anthony? It seems like so many Republicans out there that complain about policies, they don't have any answers to them, and we can talk about gun control till the cows come home. And it doesn't seem to me that they want to put anything on the books when it comes to Obamacare. They want to talk about abortion and abortion rights. What are you going to do if all the millions and millions of kids out there that are looking for foster parents? They don't have solutions to problems. But anyway, we could go on and on about that. But you'll be happy to know, Anthony, I'm not going to run down a list of all the people that the Clintons have known that have died. I will not be doing that with you. I do want to give you the opportunity to talk a little bit more about your radio show. How do people follow you? How do people listen to the podcast? How do people listen to the show? Give that information out to my listeners.
Well, it's nice of you. So we do a radio show every Saturday from 2 to 3 called The Middle. It's live on WABCRadio.com. It's available as a podcast. And then from 3 to 4, a guy named Curtis Sliwa, who your listeners may know, he and I do a show that's kind of about New York. So if your listeners are missing New York, I know there's a lot of snowbirds in Vegas. That's also on WABCRadio.com. And then in the middle of the week, I do something called The Middle Unplugged, which is just a straight podcast. And all of these things are available on Spotify and everywhere else you get podcasts.
Curtis is a good guy. He's done my show multiple times. Always love talking to him. Anthony, it's really been a pleasure. I appreciate the time, and I hope we can do this again sometime down the road. I really enjoyed the conversation, and look forward to listening to your show, my man. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks for having me, Brian. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Anthony. There you go, everybody. That's Anthony Weiner. Listen, he's made his mistakes, but I've always had a tremendous amount of respect for him, certainly as a politician. I would have absolutely supported him. And I'll tell you right now, and I'll say this on the air now, and I don't care whether people like it or not. Right now, I would vote for Anthony Weiner over a plethora of not just Republicans, but Democrats. He's made his mistakes. No question, he's not perfect. He's owned his mistakes. He's been on that apology tour. Say what you want about Anthony. He's an extremely intelligent person, extremely intelligent politician, a great grasp of the issues. I think he would have been a really good mayor. I think he would have been a really good president. He made some bad mistakes. Now, he says he's disqualified himself. I don't know if I agree with that. It might be hard for him to win based on the mistakes that he's made, but I think there's still a lot of Democrats out there that would rather vote for Anthony Weiner than a lot of other people. That's just my personal opinion. Maybe more time needs to pass. I don't know. I think Anthony Weiner down the road could run for office again. I don't know if he will. I asked him the question. And listen, these are difficult things to talk about, right? I didn't want to get into the details of the mistakes he made. That's not why I wanted him to come on this show. These are very, very personal and difficult topics for him to talk about that he is asked about, I'm sure, all the time, every day. I would imagine it's the main reason why he's no longer married. And it ruined, I would imagine, his relationship with his wife at the time, Huma. This is personal stuff, and I think he's handling it the right way. He still is getting help. He's paid the price to society, so to speak. It certainly paid the price for his political career. He seems to be doing well now. I got to tell you, I think radio is a perfect medium for him. He's a personality. He's extremely intelligent. He's very well spoken. And by the way, Curtis Lewa, I think I'm pronouncing his last name right. I always get it wrong. But Curtis has done my show multiple times. Republican, ran for mayor in New York City. In fact, when he was running for mayor, I had him on my show. And I've had Curtis on multiple times. We've had great conversations. I consider him more of a moderate Republican than many other people running for office. I think Curtis and Anthony Weiner would do a great nationally syndicated show every day because you'd get both sides of an issue from two very intelligent people. I really like the idea of that. And WABC is a conservative station, but that is a big talk radio station in New York. Big station. And I'm glad Anthony's doing a radio show. And I want him to do more interviews. And I want him to get his face out there more. Because while there's going to be people out there that are not going to like him for some of the things that he's done in his life, some of those same people are the ones that would support Donald Trump. So you have no credibility. If you're going to talk smack about Anthony Weiner and the mistakes that he made in his life, that he's paid for, then you better talk about the mistakes that Donald Trump has made. Because if you don't, then again, I don't want to hear you. You don't have any credibility. Nobody is perfect. People make mistakes. But I'll take Anthony Weiner over Donald Trump any day of the week. De Blasio, I'd take Anthony Weiner over that guy any day of the week. Andrew Cuomo, I'd take Anthony Weiner over Cuomo any day of the week. Ilhan Omar, members of the squad, I'd take Anthony Weiner in a heartbreak. If it was Nancy Pelosi versus Anthony Weiner, Chuck Schumer versus Anthony Weiner, there are Democrats out there that I like, but I'd take Anthony Weiner over any of those people. Any of those people. He's not perfect. He's made mistakes. He's paid for those mistakes. I certainly believe if there's anybody that's learned their lesson, it's Anthony Weiner. I mean, it cost him his political career, cost him his marriage. But, as he said himself, he still has a lot to be thankful for. An 11-and-a-half-year-old son, I think that's awesome, him being a father, and he's getting his life together, and he's been doing this radio thing now for the last year and a half, which I think is great. I think that's a great medium for him. I really do. I think it's a great decision that he's made. And I think it's a great medium for him. I really do. Appreciate Anthony coming on the show, and he's welcome back anytime. Really smart guy, and I love picking his brain when it comes to the political spectrum today, and we appreciate Anthony coming on the show. All right, another guy that I have a lot of respect for is going to be joining us next. Of course, I'm talking about Blake Gwynn, his grandfather, the former governor of the great state of Nevada. He's going to be joining us next. I want to tell you guys about my good friends at Sahara West Urgent Primary Care, located at 6125 West Sahara Avenue, Suite 1B. No appointment needed, $95 copay if you don't have insurance, but they take most insurances, and they do it all there, ladies and gentlemen. Please give them a call, 702-248-0554. You could also visit them online at SaharaWestUrgentCare.com. Take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premium Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Buying or selling a home is a huge life event that requires guidance from an expert in the industry and community. My name is Blake Wynn. You may recognize my name as my grandfather was the best governor the state of Nevada has ever had. Growing up in Las Vegas, I've come to know this community intricately. Now, I am raising a family here as well, so I understand all the issues impacting our home and quality of life. As the top realtor for the #1 real estate team at Keller Williams, you can have confidence in my experience, knowledge, and track record. When it comes to buying, selling, or investing in real estate, choose a name you can trust and someone who understands the community you call home. Call Blake Wynn today and experience the difference of a trusted expert. 702-540-3311.
Sapphire Pool and Day Club, the world's only topless gentlemen's day club, introduces its 2023 pool season lineup with a bevy of beauties and social media celebrities throughout the summer who will all host alongside hundreds of Sapphire's topless poolside entertainers. Enjoy brunch in the sun with items like frittata-style omelets, stripping chicken, and French kiss toast before washing it down with signature summertime cocktails. 10 lines, beware. Go Bear! Ladies are welcome to go topless within the day club for the ultimate party. Guests can purchase affordable day bed packages, cabana packages, lounge chairs, and more. The best part though? Pushing the Limits will be broadcasting shows every other Friday throughout the pool season with a ton of surprise celebrity guests. Wow! Reserve your spot now. For more info, visit SapphirePoolLV.com or call 702-869-0003. That's 702-869-0003. See you at Sapphire.
Hey everybody, it's Brian Shapiro from Pushing the Limits here. I want to tell you guys about my good friends at the Postal Annex. They have a notary signing agent, on-site daily, no appointment needed, and they offer a full scale of printing services from shipping labels to documents, business cards, banners, photos, and business signage. They're your passport service headquarters. They offer passport photos, and they can renew your adult passports. If you're traveling in a hurry, they can get those passports to you within 7 days or less. Mailbox rentals with a physical street address, and they also receive your packages from Amazon, UPS, FedEx, USPS, and more. Here's the best part. If you're a Pushing the Limits listener, they have an introductory rate of only $39 for a 3-month service. You can't beat it. Give them a call, 702-873-8005. Check them out at 6130 West Flamingo Road. It's the Postal Annex. And tell them I sent you. Hey everybody, it's Brian Shapiro from Pushing the Limits. I want to tell you guys about Sahara West Urgent Care and Wellness. They're conveniently located on the southwest corner of Sahara and Jones. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. At Sahara West Urgent Care, they'll take care of all your healthcare needs. They offer routine services such as physicals, STD testing, car accident treatment, and work injuries. You name it, they do it. They have on-site x-ray, EKG, ultrasound, and labs. They treat chronic conditions such as asthma, blood pressure, diabetes, and more. They also offer general wellness exams, treatments such as testosterone enhancement, and cancer screening. They're located on Sahara, 6125 West Sahara Avenue. Their number is 702-248-0554. And the best part, they accept most major insurances and affordable cash pay prices, office visits starting at just $95. And I'm also a client, so please give them a call, 702-248-0554.
The Vegas Voice, Tuesday morning at 10 on KSHP, North Las Vegas, AM and FM, K29, 6HP, North Las Vegas, and KSHP.com.
The best choice for convenience, comfort, and value, My Place hotels are ideal for both short-term and long-term travelers. The rooms at My Place features pillow-top mattresses, microfiber bedding, and a variety of soft and firm pillows. All extended stay rooms offer their own kitchen, which includes a full-size refrigerator and a cooktop. On-site laundry facilities are also available for extended stays at pet-friendly My Place hotels. Book your stays online at myplacehotels.com. My Place Hotels, St. George and West Jordan, Utah. Make My Place your place.
Shopping is always easy with the Radio Shopping Show. Whether it's shopping during any one of our live shows right here on AM 1400 or listening live on the KSHP app, you can always call in at 702-221-7283 to pick up great deals with your favorite host. Or shop 24/7 at kshp.com. Go to kshp.com and select Shopper's Guide to browse hundreds of businesses featured on the show. Place your order online and we'll have it shipped right to your front door. With so many possibilities, it's hard not to shop.
The Klondike Casino is a friendly local spot that features their signature restaurant, the Klondike Grill, serving up fresh food fast. Open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner just off the 95 freeway on Sunset Road in Henderson. You will find the Klondike Casino featuring all your favorite games from the Strip in the comfort of a neighborhood casino. You can place a bet at their full-service sports book or start your day with a breakfast plate that comes with your choice of potato and toast. Or check us out for lunch or dinner and try one of our many sandwiches like the popular beer-battered fish sandwich or the Philly cheesesteak. Check out the full menu at KlondikeSunset.com.
right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Thursday. You know, I was just hanging out with my friend Brian Sliplock from Jackson's Bar and Grill yesterday. He was in studio. And my favorite gaming bar in town, it's at Flamingo and Jones, and I took our next guest over there, actually. Blake, I took him over to Jackson's Bar and Grill. Great promotions, great food, great atmosphere. I took my parents over there to dinner the other day. They loved it. Check out their promotions, and if you're in the service industry, you get a $50 match play, meaning you put in $50, you play through $50. You get $50 in free slot play for free. If you're if you're in the field of law, police officer, I should say, and you're in uniform, you get a free meal over there. Jackson's Bar and Grill. Check them out. Blake Wynn joining us, of course, from Keller Williams, buying or selling a home, and Blake's grandfather, of course, the late, great Kenny Gwynn, who was just a great guy. I would say probably the last great governor that we had. I thought Sandoval was pretty good. I thought Sisolak wasn't bad, but non-comparable to this guy's grandfather, the late, great Kenny Gwynn. Blake, thank you so much for coming in. Good to see you. You're looking sharp. Man. How are you? You're not in the shoulder sling that you were in last time.
No longer am I in the shoulder sling.
So that's good.
I've got some movement back in the arm. Been doing physical therapy, a little mental therapy, getting ready to start some spiritual therapy. But no, health-wise, family and everybody's great.
Good. I am happy to hear that, my friend. Before we get to the topics that we're going to roll down the list, I just wanted to get your thoughts. You're a guy that's been involved in the political spectrum. What did you think of that interview with Anthony Weiner? He hasn't done a lot of interviews over the course of the last 2 years. Yeah. What did you think?
So I didn't know that he had his own radio show or like podcast.
WABC. Yep.
I think that's where a majority of people should start going. The long talk forum is where you can actually express your ideas. I thought instead of a 10-minute segment, giving him 40 minutes to actually explain himself was a good stepping stone for him. Owned everything that he talked about. Articulate, very articulate. We talked earlier. Yeah, he's got his demons, but in the most part, seems like he's trying to get right on the right track. So
yeah, I mean, I'm happy for him. Listen, he made some mistakes. Obviously, I would never condone doing what he did, especially to somebody that is underage. That was a big no-no. That's where he broke the law. And I would never say that it's a good thing when you're in a marriage to be sexting women without your spouse knowing about it. Obviously, he did some moral things that were wrong, but he paid the price for it, man.
Well, and he'll continue to pay the price.
Yeah.
The public forum, it's tough for them to forget something like that, especially if, he decides to run back for office. And all the opponent has to say is, hey, here's this picture that you sent to a minor. And then, boom, all of that piles right back onto him. So I get when he was saying that he wanted to disqualify himself. It's really, in my opinion, for him, it's to save himself from having to go back down that hole.
One of the reasons why I looked him up is because, he did an interview on this podcast. I don't know if you saw it a few weeks ago that went viral. And it went viral because this host, who I'd never heard of before, started to read a list of all the people that knew the Clintons and trying to make the correlation of all these people that have died. Like one guy died in a plane crash, another guy died in a car accident, another guy died of cancer.
Suicided.
Yeah. Go through this list, and you could see Weiner, his veins are popping out. He's getting so angry because, listen, this is a nonsense conspiracy theorist stuff because the Clintons are, in their 70s now. Yeah. Of course there are going to be people around them that died. There's people in my life, sadly, that have died, of course, and that's why I found his radio show and I emailed him and we had talked a little bit, but I just feel like that sort of stuff has no business on any show. Radio, TV, no matter what platform you have, no matter how big, how small, to just name a list of people that you don't know that have died because they know a politician and to try to make that correlation, I just find that to be extremely irresponsible.
Yeah, I saw a couple clips, but not enough to be able to comment on that on that one. But
it was unfortunate.
David Pat.
Yeah, I forgot the name of his.
David Bet Patrick or something.
Yeah,
PBD podcast.
Yeah, that's right. He was on Joe Rogan. I started watching that. I'm about 40 minutes into that one with Joe Rogan.
Oh, he was really.
Yeah. It's interesting because
I didn't know he did Joe Rogan show.
Yeah, just recently.
Joe Rogan to Brian Shapiro.
Yeah.
How about that?
No, not
Weiner. Oh, okay.
Not Weiner, but
this guy who did the PBD thing.
Yeah.
Conspiracy theorist,
he seems really hard on trying to push Trump to get onto Joe Rogan's show, and Joe Rogan has said from the very beginning that's a hard pass. He's not going to do it.
Why?
He doesn't want to help him. He doesn't like him as a person. he likes his policies, but not as a person, doesn't want to help him. He's been very vocal about that.
Well, that's where me and Joe Rogan would agree on. Not a very good person, but I still think he should have him on. It's like, it's your responsibility. Listen, I've interviewed people that I don't like very much.
Yeah.
But I can tell you right now, if O.J. Simpson gave me a call, I would have him on the show.
Let's just go down to Moondoggies right now. I bet she's there.
He's probably there. Yeah, well, one of okay, I'll bring this up. I haven't brought this up on the show yet, but why not just bring it up when Blake is here?
Oh, Lord.
I've known Mac Miller for several years.
Okay.
And Mac Miller's co-hosted with me a couple times. He even hosted the show here when I wasn't here.
I remember that.
Looking back on that, that was a big mistake, but I allowed him to do it, and I didn't have anybody else to do it, and I would rather have a live radio show than play a best of, right?
Sure.
Well, Mac Miller's in jail now, and he's already been convicted, and he's been sentenced to 3 years. So
hold on.
Yes.
Is that why he doesn't respond to me?
Mac Miller's behind bars right now. Yes. You didn't know that?
No.
He's behind bars. And listen, I'm not trying to laugh or make light of it.
No,
but,
I did not know that.
But he's already been convicted. And when you're a friend of somebody, and I did consider Mac Miller a friend. He went to my events. He went to he went to Sapphire a bunch of times. He went to a lot of events that I held. And when you're a friend of somebody's and you socialize with somebody, you should probably tell somebody this is around the corner. And I'm very disappointed that he didn't do that. Because I can tell you right now, if those charges were clearly over his head, and I wouldn't want someone like that hosting my show.
If you don't mind me asking, what was the main charge?
So I don't have a lot in front of me, but I guess he was convicted, and maybe Numchuck could look this up. I don't know, but maybe. Go ahead. Do you have it in front of you? I don't know.
There's nothing.
Really?
I've looked.
Something
That's
around.
what I mean. Like, I feel like it would have popped up somewhere in my sphere, but I haven't heard of that.
Something along the lines of stealing money from people.
Well, money laundering. Okay.
Yeah, some sort of financial scheme that he was convicted of. Now, I don't know all the ins and outs of the case, but I do know he's behind bars right now.
Wow.
Listen, this is one of the people that the local Republican Party here looked to him to lead in a lot of different things. And I told him plenty of times that he was associated with some of the wrong people. Like, remember the guy, he committed suicide, but the guy that went after Steve Sisolak?
Justin.
Yeah. What was his? I don't know. I remember his last name. But anyway,
knows?
he was the guy who harassed Steve Sisolak walking out of that bar. He harassed him and his family.
Oh, yeah, I remember
And then Mac Miller did an event with him, and he was like one of the guest speakers. I said, Mac, why would you want to be associated with somebody like that? It's a bad look, dude. And you know, now he's the one that's behind bars. And listen, it's horrible. But I'm trying to remember.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember why I brought that up. I don't remember. But unfortunate, and that's why he's not returning your calls.
Okay.
Yeah, you're gonna have to.
I will tell you the one thing about that man: he can pull off some colorful suits and pants.
He did dress very well.
Yeah,
I give him credit.
I remember during the whole COVID thing, he had, and it was an act, if you ask me, when he got thrown through the metal detector.
Yeah.
You know, and then started walking with a cane. A wild journey for that guy. But I
remember.
I used to always see him at La Casa.
Yeah, he went to La Casa all the time.
time.
And in fact, I went with him a few times. And he called me with O.J. Simpson when I was sick and I wasn't feeling good. I had COVID. He made a Facebook call. What do you call that? A Facebook time or whatever it's called? I don't know. I feel old saying that. and he called me with O.J. right there saying, Brian, I wish you will. You know, it's O.J. Simpson wishing me well. It was kind of weird. But yeah. So we'll see what happens there. So, you know, not to get into the political stuff because, you know, there are some people today that say two-tier justice system and all that. Well, this has nothing to do with politics, but in this case, I will say it's two-tiered. I want to talk to you a little bit about Henry Ruggs because you're a guy that grew up here, right?
Yep.
You're a guy that's lived here, you know, your whole life. There's been a lot of celebrities that have gotten in trouble into this city over the years. Everybody, right? From Bruno Mars to Paris Hilton to Floyd Mayweather. The list is a long list, right, of very famous people that have gotten in trouble in this city. We know the case, right? 155 miles an hour drunk. Henry Ruggs kills a young, innocent woman.
And her dog.
And it seems like she was a wonderful person from everybody that spoke about her and wonderful family. So Henry Ruggs gets 3 to 10 years. We know what that means. It means he's going to get maximum 3 years.
No, it's a year and a half with a year and a half probation.
Right.
Easily.
Right. Minimum. Yeah.
Which I think is what a majority of Americans, and I'll throw this number out, 98% of Americans absolutely hate celebrities or anybody that has fame. When they get in trouble, they get a slap on the wrist.
Yeah.
It's politicians, it's sports, it's entertainment. It doesn't matter. Where if you and I did that, we would be doing 20 to 30.
Yeah.
Easily.
You're right.
We were talking earlier. What was the lady? She had like 7 or 8 DUIs.
Yeah,
and she got what, 3 years?
Yeah,
2 years?
This mother had 7 DUIs. Keep in mind, she never got into an accident. She never hurt or killed anybody, and she got 2 to 6. Now, what she did was terrible, and it's an embarrassment to this country that somebody who gets a half a dozen DUIs is still allowed to legally drive. I have serious problems with that.
Should be 2 DUIs.
Your
license is done.
I agree. I said this, Blake.
Much like once you hit 70, you should be taking your driving test every single year.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
I'll take the heat for that one.
I said that yesterday, and I say that today. I said it today on the show. I say if you get 1 DUI, and this is, by the way, not getting into an accident, not hurting or killing somebody. You just get pulled over for a DUI, right? For maybe speeding or your I don't care. Your registration was late. 1, you lose your license for a year. Because for that year, you think about the mistake you made, and you take the bus, and you get rides. 1 year. And then after 1 year, no problem. Okay, we'll reinstate you.
Yep.
You do it again, you're done. Because driving is a privilege. It's not a right.
No, I think driving absolutely is a privilege, right? I mean, that's why when you turn 16, or, I was 15 and a half, and go get your driver's permit, and then right when you're 16, man, you're like,
yeah,
I'm out.
Yep.
If you get a DUI, I don't have a problem with it being taken away for a year. Because you just getting pulled over is probably the least of what could have happened. You are so impaired that you may not see somebody crossing the road. Somebody pulls out in front of you. I mean, there is a million different things that could happen when you're drinking and driving. And if you get caught, you should be punished for it. 2 DUIs, your license is revoked.
Yeah. So what do you make of, we had Henry Rugg's personal attorney join us yesterday on the show, and I'm forgetting his name. What is it again, Justin? David? What is David's last name?
Chestnoff.
Why am I so horrible at names, Justin? I don't know. David Chestnoff joined us on the show yesterday.
I missed the show yesterday.
Yeah, no, well, shame on you.
I know.
Dare you?
I know. I try to catch it every day.
Shame on you. I did such a great live read for Keller Williams Group. No, but David joined us on the show yesterday. And he was, listen, I get it. He's a celebrity attorney. He's going to do the best to represent his client, and he's very good at what he does. But he made the case, listen, this guy's been on house arrest for 2 years. This is very fair. I get it. He's going to say that. But for someone to be in jail 1.5 to 3 years, somewhere in that time frame, this is an embarrassment. And it's an embarrassment on our justice system. It's an embarrassment with the judge that was involved and the prosecutors. I understand it's a first-time offense. And maybe the laws need to change. I don't know. But when you go 155 miles an hour drunk and you kill somebody, minimum 10 years. That's what I say.
So I drive by that spot. It's past.
You do?
It's off of Rainbow and Trop. There's a beautiful mural of the gal and her dog that are right there. So I drive by it quite a few times, and you're going, man, 155, and what was it? A Chevy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway,
35 miles an hour there. Is that what it is?
It's 45.
45.
But still, there's dips and everything. Like, it's not a road that you do 155 on.
Right. Or even 90 for that.
I don't care if it's a first-time offense. You're going 155. That is one right there. You should be arrested and put in jail just for that high speed.
Agree.
Right? But now you're drunk. You crash into somebody. You cause property damage as well. Mm-hmm. And you're going, well, he's been in probation or house arrest for 2 years. Well, that's because you kept appealing the process. If he had done it right now you build up all this time, you build up all this public support.
Right.
How there was public support for this guy is absolutely beyond me. The Raiders should be ashamed that they drafted him. It's bad character on a lot of their current draft picks as well. It's bad on Metro. It's bad on our justice system here locally. It's just a bad look overall, and for me, it's an embarrassment as a true Nevadan to see somebody like that essentially get a slap on the wrist, and in 1.5 years, they're going to be free.
I agree with
everything. And they might even have an opportunity to try out for football again.
Yeah, we could talk about that, but I agree with everything you just said. I know Derek Carr's not here anymore, and listen, I think Derek Carr's a nice man. He's a religious man. He's a family man. Don't have anything personally bad to say about him, but I did have a problem with some of his statements just days after that accident where he said, don't hate the man, hate the behavior, hate what he did. No.
The behavior defines the man.
Agree. 100%.
Right? And so like with Weiner, I'm not a fan of him, but his character defined who he was. Only him, through his actions, can he change his behavior to change his outlook or how people view him. Henry Ruggs, I don't think that's ever going to happen, especially here locally. One, he wasn't a big enough superstar, right? What was it? Second year, I believe, right?
Correct.
So, no, his behavior is who he is. So Derek Carr is saying, don't hate the man, hate the behavior. It's one and the same.
You know what I think is, I agree. You know what I think is really cowardly, and I didn't really mention this on the air yesterday or today. When I'm watching the court proceedings yesterday, Henry Ruggs had his attorney read an apology. What kind of man are you that you can't even read a statement? When I hear people in court apologize, there's two different types of people. There's people that read a statement that are not emotional, a statement that probably their attorneys wrote. And then there's people that show emotion that just speak from the heart and apologize. Why do you need a written statement? Are you that stupid? If you really are sorry for what you did, then why don't you get up there and speak from the heart? And how hard would that be? Geez, I'm really sorry I did this to the Tintor family. It was a horrible decision that I made. My heart goes out to you. I promise you when I get out of jail, I'm going to do everything to try to save other lives out there in the name of your daughter. Like, he could have said that, and then I would have said to myself, okay, maybe there's some sincerity there. Now, maybe he does have sincerity, but I believe it is cowardly. Is it because you can't read? Because if that's the excuse and you're Floyd Mayweather, then you could just get up there and you could just speak from the heart. He didn't do either. I just thought it was so cowardly. You talk about character, Blake. So cowardly that he couldn't even speak himself.
So it's interesting. So my dear friend here, Gino, actually just wrote, because he lives in Spanish Trail, which is right where that happened, kind of right down there.
Yep.
He said that Henry Ruggs was driving like that routinely around that area. And
Not surprised.
apparently, I guess he lives in Spanish Trail. That's where his house arrest is, and it ain't too bad. He's got, 3 nines there to go play golf?
Yeah.
So, yes, it is a two-tier justice system when we're talking about the rich and famous or celebrities or politicians versus the common person. This guy should have been put away. I'm with you. 155, you kill a person and their loved one, the animal.
Right.
To some people, their animal is it's their children.
Sure.
10 years and should never have another opportunity in the NFL ever again.
And I agree with you again. I'm not so sure that's going to happen, especially if he's only in jail for a year and a half on good behavior. Now listen, this is not somebody we're not going to hear much of throughout the year, and that is Derek Carr, because he's no longer in Vegas. But I was talking a little bit about Derek Carr's comments just days after this accident. Have a listen to this, and then we'll comment on it.
I just didn't know over the course of time to him, not to anybody else. We're able to. Haven't reached out. I will always be here for him. That won't change, and I'll prove that over the course of time to him, not to anybody else. But he needs people to love him right now. He's probably feeling a certain type of way about himself right now, and he needs to be loved.
And he went on also to say, don't hate the man, hate the behavior. I get it that if you're a friend of somebody, you want to, quote, be there for them. I wish Derek Carr spoke a little bit more about the victim and the victims in this.
Yeah.
I know he did mention them briefly, but what about Tina Tintor's family? I don't care if Ruggs is by himself in a jail cell. That was not the time where he needed people around him. And I don't know. That's where I disagreed with Derek Carr. I understand you're going to be loyal to your friends, and I get that, but there's a line. Right?
Yeah, and I don't know if is that the Raiders publicist that makes him step up and say, hey, we're going to step up behind and save, we're with this guy, or is that his religious background? But no, the right thing, especially for what the Raiders should have done at that time, the entire organization and the entire city should have got behind the gal and said, look, we are fully supporting you. We'll deal with Henry Ruggs later on, but as a community, we need to heal.
I know Mark Davis went to the funeral. I know Mark Davis is not a bad guy. I wish that they would have done some sort of fundraising for the family. I wish they would have done something at halftime or something during a game. They didn't.
No.
And I did criticize the Raiders for that. And I don't blame them for what happened. There's one person that I blame for this, and it's
Henry Ruggs.
The man who did it, Henry Ruggs. I don't blame the Raiders for what took place. Listen, Josh Jacobs smashed up his car. Is he even a Raider anymore?
I think he left right before training camp.
He's waiting to get franchised.
He's still waiting. Here's a guy who smashed up his car near the airport connector. You had a police officer in the police report that said his eyes were red, bloodshot red, and he smelled of alcohol. Clearly, based on that police report, he was drunk. They never do a test, and what does he do? Josh Jacobs hires the same attorney and gets a slap on the wrist.
That's what I mean.
This is a culture, not just in the NFL, but of professional athletes that have gotten DUIs. I remember, I don't know if you remember this story, two former NBA players, Bobby Phills and David Wesley, and although alcohol wasn't involved, they were speeding together after a practice.
Okay.
And Phills was killed. He got into an accident and he died. It's a culture, and listen, this could happen not just among professional athletes. Sadly, it happens in this country every day with just normal, everyday people. And I just feel like, and we've talked about this, Blake, but I just feel like, yeah, the laws need to change, and we're not tough enough on people who get behind the wheel drunk. And things need to change in this country, and there's a lot of laws that need to change, right? And listen, Republicans talk about this a lot, and this is where I agree with them on, where it's got to be stronger on the laws that, keep these laws on the books, and we got to put people behind bars. And listen, I'm all for that. I'm all for accountability. I don't have a problem with that. I do believe if you sold weed or you grew weed in your backyard 10 years ago, you probably shouldn't be in jail either.
I'm with you.
So I think it can go both ways, right? Because I know you have a forest in your backyard of marijuana, right? Is that true? I don't know.
I don't know. My wife got the mail yesterday, and she's like, oh, hey, if you spend $150, you get $30 off at the dispensary. I'm like, I haven't been to a dispensary in like 2 years.
Yeah, I had a bad experience with one of those gummy bears. I started hallucinating, so I'm going to stay away from those.
I will tell you, CBD has been a fantastic supplement that I've been taking for my healing.
Really?
Yeah.
Helps you with pain?
It does. Yeah, and it helps you go to sleep at night. Aloe juice has been fantastic as well. Helps with inflammation. Yeah, oh, yeah.
I did not know that.
Oh, yeah.
How does it taste?
I don't know, like aloe.
Not great.
I don't know.
Tastes
It's
like
not a great taste.
Yeah, not great.
But yeah, it's either that or you start taking the pain pills, and then that leads you down a rabbit hole you don't want to go down. So, yeah.
Interesting. All right. Well, here's what I want to do. I certainly want to talk about certainly your expertise, which is if you're thinking of buying or selling a home. I want to talk a little bit about the market. There's a lot of people out there that think the market is going to crash. I want to get Blake's feelings on that. Of course, if you're thinking of buying or selling a home, Blake's with Keller Williams Group at 702-540-3311. I've already memorized his number. I say it so many times. 702-540-3311. But I will take some calls when we come back as well, and I'll open up the phone lines. That number is 702-221-7283. And again, that number, if you want to join the show, we had Anthony Weiner in hour number 1. That was certainly an interesting conversation, to say the least. We've been talking a little bit with Blake Gwynn about Henry Ruggs, and some people would call it a slap on the wrist. I would as well. 3 to 10 years, that could mean only 1.5 years, and then he's out on probation. 1.5 years, he's still going to be an extremely young man in his mid-20s. So will he be playing football again? Maybe we can dissect that a little bit when we get back as well. That number, 702-221-7283. We'll be back with Blake Gwynn. I'm Brian Shapiro. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premium Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Buying or selling a home is a huge life event that requires guidance from an expert in the industry and community. My name is Blake Gwynn. You may recognize my name as my grandfather was the best governor the state of Nevada has ever had. Growing up in Las Vegas, I've come to know this community intricately. Now, I am raising a family here as well, so I understand all the issues impacting our home and quality of life. As the top realtor for the #1 real estate team at Keller Williams, you can have confidence in my experience, knowledge, and track record. When it comes to buying, selling, or investing in real estate, choose a name you can trust and someone who understands the community you call home. Call Blake Gwynn today and experience the difference of a trusted expert. 702-540-3311.
Sapphire Pool and Day Club, the world's only topless gentlemen's day club, introduces its 2023 pool season lineup with a bevy of beauties and social media celebrities throughout the summer who will all host alongside hundreds of Sapphire's topless poolside entertainers. Enjoy brunch in the sun with items like frittata-style omelets, stripping chicken, and French kiss toast before washing it down with signature summertime cocktails. 10 lines, beware. Go Bear! Ladies are welcome to go topless within the day club for the ultimate party. Guests can purchase affordable day bed packages, cabana packages, lounge chairs, and more. The best part though? Pushing the Limits will be broadcasting shows every other Friday throughout the pool season with a ton of surprise celebrity guests. Wow! Reserve your spot now. For more info, visit sapphirepool.lv.com or call 702-869-0003. That's 702-869-0003. See you at Sapphire.
Hey everybody, it's Brian Shapiro from Pushing the Limits here. I want to tell you guys about my good friends at the Postal Annex. They have a notary signing agent on site daily, no appointment needed, and they offer a full scale of printing services from shipping labels to documents, business cards, banners, photos, and business signage. They're your passport service headquarters. They offer passport photos and they can renew your adult passports. If you're traveling in a hurry, they can get those passports to you within 7 days or less. Mailbox rentals with a physical street address, and they also receive your packages from Amazon, UPS, FedEx, USPS, and more. Here's the best part. If you're a Pushing the Limits listener, they have an introductory rate of only $39 for a 3-month service. You can't beat it. Give them a call. 702-873-8005. Check them out at 6130 West Flamingo Road. It's the Postal Annex. Tell them I sent you. Hey everybody, it's Brian Shapiro from Pushing the Limits. I want to tell you guys about Sahara West Urgent Care and Wellness. They're conveniently located on the southwest corner of Sahara and Jones. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. At Sahara West Urgent Care, they'll take care of all your healthcare needs. They offer routine services such as physicals, STD testing, car accident treatment, and work injuries. You name it, they do it. They have on-site x-ray, EKG, ultrasound, and labs. They treat chronic conditions such as asthma, blood pressure, diabetes, and more. They also offer general wellness exams, treatments such as testosterone enhancement and cancer screening. They're located on Sahara, 6125 West Sahara Avenue. Their number is 702-248-0554. And the best part, they accept most major insurances and affordable cash pay prices, office visits starting at just $95. And I'm also a client, so please give them a call, 702-248-0554. All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Thursday. Quick programming note for you. Tomorrow on the show, you might have heard of this lovely lady before, the internet sensation. Her name is Courtney Tilia. She used to be a teacher, and because the school district claimed that she was dressed too, what would be the word, scantily dressed? I don't know.
Provocatively?
Provocative. Because of that, they fired her. And now she's making boatloads of money showing off her body on the internet. I know Justin is a huge fan. Isn't that right, Justin? Yes.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, well, I can't wait to have her come in tomorrow. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we'll have a really good time. Also, a lot of fun is Blake Gwynn. I mean, I don't think he's doing what Courtney's doing. He's with Keller Williams Group, buying or selling a home. Lavishly good-looking man, let's be honest.
We'll talk about my feet pics.
Yeah.
Blake, you got OnlyFans?
Give him a call, 702-540-3311. But I did promise we would take some phone calls in regards to the Henry Ruggs situation, whether people agree or disagree. They're always welcome to call in and share their opinions. Again, that number, 702-5... I almost gave out your number. You see that?
That's okay.
702-221-7283 is the number to call. Why don't we start off with Mark? Hi, Mark. What's going on?
Just hanging in there, watching first 2 weeks listener, first-time caller.
Appreciate that, sir. Thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
You guys are totally wrong as far as the sentencing guidelines and time you'll do in prison as far as 3 to 10.
Okay.
He won't get out in a year and a half. Minimum 3 years, 3 months. Minimum.
And do you think that's fair?
He won't even see his first parole hearing until 2026.
All right, so Blake made that statement, and I don't know the ramifications of 3 to 10. What's the minimum? But let's just say you're right, and I'm not saying you're wrong. Let's just say he gets 3 to 3.5 years. Let's assume that that's going to happen. Are you okay with that? Going 155 miles an hour, drunk, killing somebody?
Well, it's his first mistake, right? He doesn't have like a career criminal history or anything,
okay.
Right?
So are you saying because he doesn't have a criminal history, you're okay with somebody driving 150? I'm just asking you your opinion. We can disagree.
I'm not okay with it. No, I'm not okay with drunk driving. I despise drunk drivers.
No, I know that. Sir, I know that. I'm not saying that you're okay with drunk driving. You'd be crazy to say that. I know you're not saying that. What I am asking you, though, is somebody without a criminal record going 155 miles an hour drunk, which clearly he was, killing somebody and their dog, what do you think is a fair sentence? I guess that's my question.
Well, 3 to 10 is pretty harsh because he probably won't get out his first parole hearing.
Let me
not very many people get out, so he'll end up doing about 4 to 5 years, maybe. But I'd say 4 because you get 2 parole hearings in a year and a half after your first one.
So Mark, Blake here. So let me just, if you were to relay this to your own family, if Henry Ruggs took a family member of yours and he was only getting 3 to 10, that's a big discrepancy of how much time. That's 7-year gap there that he can get out on parole. If he got out in 4 years, your family life has been completely altered. But because it's his first offense, he should get the minimum sentence on that?
Well, yeah, I guess so, because, I'll be upset about it because it's my family, right?
Wow.
But also, you got to look at him and his life and his family. And he made one mistake,
But that mistake cost people their lives.
See, here's where I disagree. If I could interject. A mistake is locking my keys in my car. That's not a mistake. He made a choice. He made a choice to get into a car drunk, going 155 miles an hour. You are playing Russian roulette with society. Would you call it a mistake if I took out a gun and I just started shooting it around a crowd? And I'm not trying to kill somebody. That's not a mistake. You're an ignorant moron if you do that, and you're dangerous.
Right.
I don't think what Henry Ruggs did is quote unquote a mistake. It was criminal.
He was an ignorant moron for going 150 miles per hour.
He's a killer.
Drunk.
He's a killer.
Yeah, and putting society at risk. I understand that.
Yeah.
But for being an ignorant moron, should you spend the rest of your life like
I didn't say that. I never said he should spend the rest of his life in jail. What I said was it should be a minimum 10-year sentence.
Agreed.
I never said he should spend the rest of his life in jail. And in fact, I've said the opposite of that. But I do believe 3, 4, 5 years is absurd. That woman is 6 feet underneath the ground because of Henry Ruggs' actions, stupidity, and criminal behavior. 10 years, I think it should be a minimum of 10 years. And there are too many people in society that are drunk driving, whether you injure somebody or kill somebody, and they get several years in prison, and it's wrong. And you can't tell me that this is fair because, and I've given examples of why it's not fair. There's a woman in Las Vegas that just got sentenced to 2 to 6 years for 7 DUIs, but she never killed anybody. She never injured anybody. Why does she get 2 to 6 years, but Henry Ruggs kills somebody and gets 3 to 10? I just think it's not fair. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and the lady you're talking about will get out in about 3 years.
Right.
That's how the parole board system
But
works.
how is that fair? How can you kill somebody and get out in maybe 4, as you said, and not even injure somebody and get 3? I just think that's injustice, not justice.
Right. And the scales of justice are tilted. They're not even. If you look at the statute, they're tilted.
Well, I think we can agree on this.
Or the picture.
We can agree on this. What Henry Ruggs did was awful. It's terrible. There are no winners here. I think where we disagree is the punishment. And I think if punishments were more strict, and I think if there was a mandatory 10-year sentence if you kill somebody, I think if there was a mandatory jail sentence if you get your second DUI, then I think DUIs would go down and it would save lives. That's just my personal opinion.
Okay, and that's not how it works in Nevada, though. You get 3 to 10.
I know that.
10 to 20, 10 to 21. It's always, the minimum is always less than half of
Yeah, I understand.
You can't get 10 to 20.
I hear you. I am not disagreeing with you, and I'm not debating, what the laws are here. I hear you. You're right on that. I'm just disagreeing with what the laws are, and they should change. I guess that's what I'm saying. But, hey, I appreciate you listening, finding the show, my man. You call back anytime, okay?
Okay, thanks for taking my call.
Thanks for your take. We appreciate you. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Edward. Edward is next on Pushing the Limits. Hi, Edward. What's up?
Hey, what's up, everybody? What's going on?
Edward.
Hey, guys. Hey, I think we're going to have a little bit of a debate today. Maybe we'll have an argument, but I'm not going to raise my voice or anything. But I didn't like that Anthony guy on. He's a registered sex offender. He's not a great politician, and I didn't like listening to him at all, to be honest.
Why?
Especially
why? Because of what he did in the past, or why?
Of course. I'll tell you what. If you are an SO, you lose all credibility.
Okay. Well, I think there are different levels. And I'm not.
He's a low-level registered offender, and I had to look it up. And he said Google him.
Yeah.
He said Google him.
So if
it pays to listen to your show.
Yeah. No, I understand.
So
So I don't want to sit here and defend Anthony Weiner's actions, and I'm not going to. But I will.
Yeah.
But I will say this: there is a fine line between what they do on that show to catch a predator and actually going to somebody's house and wanting to have sexual relations with a minor, and somebody on social media not knowing they're talking to an underage person and sending genitalia pics. I'm not defending what Anthony Weiner did.
He went to prison. Prison for 21 months.
He went to a facility, a mental health facility. But I'm not.
He wasn't at home.
I understand. But and again, I'm not defending what he did. But I would tell you, in my estimation, there is a fine line between actually physically doing something to somebody and then online not knowing that you're talking to somebody that's underage. That's what I would say. As far as his intelligence or what he said, what do you disagree with what he said? What did he say?
Because I felt like he's been a disgraced politician, and we have to look at people like that are booted out from office because they're judged by their peers. I can kind of see that as like, you know what, maybe they're not the best person for the office, and that's okay as well, but you don't have to agree with everyone that's in office as well,
I understand that, but I'll tell you this. Anthony Weiner is an extremely intelligent person that has made mistakes, and he's paid for those mistakes.
So was Ted Bundy.
I don't know how you can compare a serial murderer to Anthony Weiner. I think that's a ridiculous comparison. But by your standards, Donald Trump was liable for sexually abusing someone. Should he be allowed to run for office by your standards?
Has he been convicted and judged by his peers yet?
Yes, he's been found sexually liable in a court. Yes, jurors.
But that's like the OJ trial. It's like the same thing. There's two parts of it. Mr. Trump hasn't done any time. He hasn't been in handcuffs, has he? Has he?
He was found sexually liable for sexual abuse in a courtroom.
Okay, so he'll pay a really big fine or a penalty, but he won't do any jail time.
So your line is as long as you don't do jail time. Is that what I'm trying? Anthony Weiner didn't do jail time either, though. Yeah, you're conflating.
Yes, he did. He went
to a psychiatric. But he went to a psychiatric ward getting mental help. Is where they sent him in New York City.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think there's a difference between doing hard time and then going to getting mental help. But if that's your threshold, and you don't want to vote for somebody that ever spends a day in prison, then you have a right to that opinion. I think there are different levels of crimes that are committed, and I would vote.
And I agree.
Yeah, I would vote for Anthony Weiner over a lot of politicians today.
And I do agree with your belief. I'll agree with you on this one. For the people who get DWI manslaughter charges, we need to up those big time.
I agree.
Amen. 10 minimum.
You see that,
minimum,
Edward?
Like no driving forever.
You see, Edward, we found some common ground, and let's end the call on a good note. Edward, I appreciate your.
Of course, we always do.
I know we do. Edward, I appreciate the call, my friend. Thank you so much. Okay, have a good.
Hey, y'all have a great week, guys.
Thanks
for answering the phone call.
Of course, anytime, Edward. Appreciate the call. All right, Blake, what do you say? We take one more. 702.
Yeah. It's a good one.
702-221-7283, 702-221-7283. Let's go to Carl. Carl, what's going on, man?
Hey, how you doing, buddy? Listen, Brian, on the Ruggs case, I do agree with you that his sentence was a little short, but it's already been given, and there's nothing anybody can do about it. But what I hope happens to him is the civil end of suits keep him so broke the rest of his life. Yeah. Even if he goes back and plays football again, he's going to be his salary will be taken away. He'll be fined. He'll be sued for so much that from the family that he'll never have $50 again.
All right. Well, I mean, listen, there's a lot to dissect there, Carl. I agree with what you said. If he's financially stricken the rest of his life, that's on him. I don't think that's going to happen. With the people that he knows, and by the way, he might be playing in the NFL. I don't know how you feel about this, but I think he could be in the NFL in 3 or 4 years.
I think that would be an absolute disgrace. I mean,
you don't think he might get a couple of $1 million suit jury would give him for what he did?
Carl, I hope to the good Lord above that woman's family sues him up the rear and takes him to civil court the same way Nicole Brown's family did with O.J. Simpson. Take him for all he's worth, because you're right. The prison sentence is already set. All we can do is complain about it. Yeah. That's it, right? Yeah. We can have our opinions about it. But now the next step moving forward is that her family can actually take civil action and put a dent in his wallet. Yeah. And I think you're absolutely correct, and I appreciate that statement.
Carl, appreciate the call as always, my friend. Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Carl. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation. I think we want to go to Harold next. Is that right? Harold, what's up?
You should have asked the Benji Brock bleeping question. Wait, is he more than 7? Bleeping inches. That's what everyone wanted to. Bleeping no.
Well, I think if the first question you wanted me to ask Anthony Weiner was how big his genitalia was, then I think you need to go into a mental institution yourself, sir. Thank you so much for the phone call.
What was that?
I think he wanted to know how big Anthony Weiner's wiener was. That's what he wanted me to ask him.
Just text him. He'll send him a D pic.
Yeah, I mean, you know, yeah, he might do that.
What a call!
Thank you, Harold, for that wonderful phone call. Appreciate that. That reminded me of when the Howard Stern people went into Anthony Weiner's press conference and started screaming out questions.
Was it Beetlejuice?
That was actually funny. Harold who called in was not funny.
No.
702-221-7283 is the number to call. Do we have okay, I thought we had somebody else on the line. But, you know, in closing, I think we agree that this is a situation where Ruggs should be spending more time behind bars. He's not. That's the bottom line. People can defend it all they want to, but I'm just going to disagree with you. So here's something that I haven't been able to talk with you yet, Blake. And by the way, if you're just joining us, Blake Gwynn with Keller Williams. If you're thinking of buying or selling a home, Blake is the man for so many different reasons. Number one, he's lived here his whole life. I don't understand these people that want to hire a real estate person. I won't mention any names, but and they just moved here like 6 months ago. It makes absolutely no sense. Blake has been here his entire life. There are people out there that are saying that the market is going to crash. No. And I wanted to get your thoughts on that. Number one, is that true? And number two, what should people do about it?
Well, so here's the main problem with social media. Social media is you get these blowhards within our real estate industry. One of those people just was recently mentioned in an article in the RJ. I'm not going to drop names, but he's a blowhard. Whatever way, which way the wind is going to blow on social media is he goes. So for him, the market is going to crash. We don't see that at Willow Manor, our real estate team, especially here locally in Las Vegas. Right now, interest rates are kind of staying stable, and they're kind of going up just a little bit. But inventory and the demand to purchase in this great valley is what's keeping the market stable. Mm-hmm. So right now, yes, we're on low inventory. Yes, interest rates are stable, but there's no indicators that right now that the market is going to crash. The only way that we foresee that the market could crash is that if the feds decide to raise the interest rates over 8% and hold it for a majority of time. What that would do nationwide would literally crash the entire real estate market if that happened, because then homes would become unaffordable. They won't do that because they understand what would happen.
Interesting. Now, it's so interesting to me that, you know, we go back every couple years, and the market constantly is changing. Right? Yep. I feel like and you correct me if I'm wrong, because this is your expertise. Right now, it's probably a little cheaper to buy a home than maybe it was a couple years ago. But then, you know, you go a year down the road, prices could spike again. It seems like they're on the rise. What are your thoughts on that?
So I'm going to touch on this two things.
Okay.
One, I'm going to give a shout out to my buddy Josh Selleck. He works for a home builder. He's following me right now on Instagram Live. If you're looking to purchase, there's two routes, right? There is the traditional resale, which you're getting a home. It's probably got an established backyard, and you're probably going to have to do some upgrades and everything, right? And then the other route is what I think right now is, if you're looking long-term, is going new construction. And you can have a realtor represent you while you're doing those negotiations. It doesn't cost you a thing to have representation when you're dealing with a new home builder. Right now, if you're looking to purchase, new home builders nationwide went out and bought bulk down rates. So right now, the average, let's say interest rate is anywhere from 6.8 to 7.5. Home builders are down in the low 5s. So if you're looking at interest rates versus payments, new home construction is probably the route to go. They're giving fantastic incentives right now. You are getting $30,000 in closing costs. You're getting appliances. Now, the pros versus cons on new construction is you're going to have to put a lot more money down, right? You're going to have to put half your money down for upgrades. You got to put in blinds. You've got to do more appliances. You've got to do your yard. So those are the two routes. If you're buying, new construction is a really, really good avenue right now. Yeah. I also had this conversation with my sister right now. I've got twin sisters, and they're talking about possibly going out and renting. They are 26, 27 years old, still live at home. God bless them. They're talking about going out and renting. They're like, well, the only problem with renting is that every year they'll start increasing your rent. I go, well, a lot of people right now, I think it's 60 or 70% of Americans right now, if they had an emergency, don't have $500 spare in their savings account to cover an expense. Let's say you need new tires or dental work or an emergency surgery, whatever it is, majority of Americans can't cover that. So for majority of Americans, I would say, is right now the right time to purchase. It really depends upon your situation because a lot of people cannot afford that down payment right now. So renting in the short term is probably a better opportunity for them in the long run.
And see, that's the advice that you gave my parents, and that's exactly what they're doing right now. They were thinking of buying or selling a house. They gave you a call. You gave them great advice, and they signed a 1-year contract in a 55 and over community. And I told them, as I think you did as well, I was like, listen, just take the year, see where you're at a year from now, and then see where the market is, right? There's no reason to rush, right, when it comes to this stuff.
It's for some people, let's just say a majority of people, buying or selling is going to be the largest financial decision that they're ever going to make. Right? If you had bought, say, right after the market crash, let's say, Brian, you had bought in 2012, a home that you probably got for $120,000 is probably now valued $600,000. Mm-hmm. So you really only owe probably now $50,000. I mean, you've got $500,000 in equity in that house. I mean, that's what those people have been doing. And so, renting is a fantastic opportunity because, again, unless you can qualify for some of the first-time home buyer programs or down payment assistance programs, getting, $10,000 to $20,000 together is really tough for people, especially right now in this economy. Yeah.
And if you're just joining us, he is Blake Gwynn, Keller Williams. If you're thinking of buying or selling a home, give him a call, 702-540-3311. And I know you have a special that you would be giving to Pushing the Limits listeners. So why don't you tell people about that?
I do. So again, Blake Gwynn, I'm with Willow Manor. We're powered by Keller Williams. My phone number is 702-540-3311. Right now for Pushing the Limit listeners, whether it's on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, doesn't matter. If you buy or sell and you close with us, I'm giving $1,000 cash back in your pocket, and you guys can use that to help buy appliances, blinds, help with your yard, whatever it is that you guys need to.
I like it. For me, it'd be paying for maids because I'm very messy. I don't clean up after myself, so it's a problem I have.
Right, that's my kids.
It's an issue. Yeah, I'm like your kids. Yeah, Dad, you wouldn't like me as your son. I'll tell you that right now. I'm a pretty messy guy. But so what are you doing? What do you do? And I'm curious. You've lived in Vegas your whole life. Like, what do you do as far as just a night out? Like, do you still have date night with your wife? Do you even have time for that anymore?
Well, before my wife and I had kids, we had the most amazing date life. What we would do is every single Friday night, we go to a new restaurant.
Yep.
And what we found out was that the rehabilitation of downtown Fremont is where a majority of the best restaurants are. And so when we do get a break, we like to go down there. I find that's where some of the best young chefs are, like Carson's Kitchen and, some of those places. Now with 2 kids, it gets a little difficult. We spend the weekends with the parents. And as you know, one of my favorite things to do is golfing. And so hopefully by November, we get back out there.
I'd love to do that.
I've got a fantastic daddy golf group. We try to get out every single week, before the injury. But really, it's spending time with the kids. I take the kids to gymnastics. My daughter, she starts at a new private school this upcoming week, and so now I'm starting to get involved within that community. One of my favorite things that I do is I am now the fundraising chair of the Red Shoe Society, which did the poker tournament.
Right.
And so we help raise money for the Ronald McDonald House and the sick children. And so
That's cool.
Those are one of my deep passions, is helping and being within the community and helping each other.
I love that, man. And any charity events that you got coming up, we'll gladly promote, and I will certainly be a part of. It was fun going to your poker tournament at Red Rock months back, and I look forward to doing that again. Well, Blake, it's always a pleasure, my man. Thanks for coming in, as always.
That went by quick.
It does. The hour goes by fast when you're having fun. Hopefully Anthony Weiner feels the same way. But anyway, Blake, thanks again, my man. You're a good friend, and thanks for your support of what we're doing here. And if you're thinking of buying or selling a home, please support my sponsors. And Blake Gwynn is one of them, and he's a good friend, and he does a great job over there at Keller Williams. All right, everybody, that's a wrap. Blake, I hope you'll be listening tomorrow, because a very special, beautiful guest is going to be joining us in studio, Courtney Tilia. I think you'll be interested. And that's what I do on this show. From, what are they called, OnlyFan models, to Anthony Weiner, to drag queens.
To me.
To porn stars, to lavishly good-looking men like Blake Gwynn. You know, we are very diverse here. As, by the way, Anthony Weiner eloquently pointed out on my show, which I appreciated. Anyway, thanks for being here, Blake. We'll see you tomorrow. Same time, same place. Everybody have a great day. Tomorrow's Friday. We're getting through the week, everybody. I'm going to the Aviators game tonight with my folks. It's going to be fun. Have a great day, everybody.